Actually, we're going to return to weather here because we just had a tornado warning that was issued for Lewis County. So again, this was just issued here. This includes Vanceburg. This is a tornado warning, and it is in effect until 6:15. That's for Lewis County. So this just came across the wire here. Seeing some indications of a possible tornado. It's radar indicated right now, but it's near Tollsboro, moving east at 30 miles an hour. And some of the areas that could be impacted by this include Vanceburg, Tollsboro, Rome, Charters, Stricklet, Glen Springs, and Carrs. So I'm going to switch over here to the velocity scan. And there you can see, that was that area I was watching here. It was looking like it was kind of weakening, and now it's strengthened again. So right there, that kind of zone right there, it's just south of Rybolt and Charters, where you see the red, that's outbound winds, and then the inbound winds here in green. That is indicative of some rotation. So we've seen that within that cell, and so that has prompted a tornado warning here from the National Weather Service. So if you're in Charters, Clarksburg, Vanceburg, that's Clarksburg, Kentucky, Vanceburg area, you want to get into the lowest level of your home. You want to get into a safe spot here. And just ride this out as this makes its way to the east. Again, it is a radar indicated tornado right now. We don't have any confirmation of any actual tornado on the ground, but the National Weather Service has seen enough evidence of this that they have gone ahead and issued that tornado warning. So there you can see that particular thunderstorm cell right now as it's making its way on off to the east. And there's just been enough wind energy here in these storms. This line is really ramped up, this entire line here. We saw that tornado warning just a little while ago outside of our area up near Georgetown in Ohio. And then this one in Lewis County, we were kind of keeping an eye on here. And there was enough rotation here to prompt that tornado warning from the National Weather Service. So what they're talking about is possible spin-up tornadoes. These would probably be brief in nature. They would not be particularly intense, but any tornado needs to be taken seriously. And that's why you want to get into the lowest level of your home and find a place like a basement's the best place, but any interior room away from windows, so like a hallway, bathroom, closet, and that's places like Vanceburg. That's the most populated spot here that would be impacted by this right now because of that tornado warning. So again, we have that tornado warning in effect for Lewis County in Kentucky. And then outside of that, numerous severe thunderstorm warnings in effect now into western parts of Scioto County. That includes Otway and Nile. And I would suspect Portsmouth will eventually get under some kind of warning. And then we also have that extending on down towards Elliott County as well. So solid line of these severe thunderstorm warnings right now, all in orange. You can see how extensive that is. And then it's this tornado warning. That's why we're breaking in here right now for this, because of that rotation that we're seeing here on radar. And it looks like it's intensified right there. So that definitely has quite a signature going on here with it right now. So we're seeing some pretty strong inbound and outbound winds. We can get some velocities on here. So the wind's blowing in one direction and then in another direction, and that's could certainly indicate at least the beginnings of a possible spin-up tornado. You could get some rotation right here. So that's just south of Route 10 right now, where that signature would be, just southwest of Charters, and it's moving east at around 30 miles an hour. It looks like it has kind of an east-northeast drift. So that is headed right into Charters, that signature. So if you're in Charters, again, you want to be in that safe spot here and let this go through. And it's moving, at a fairly quick clip at about 30 miles an hour. But this is going to continue to pass maybe towards Clarksburg, Kentucky, and Vanceburg is also potentially in the path of this thing. And again, this is kind of just centered just near and south of Route 10 there. So just to the southeast of Heron Hill and Rybolt right now is where we're seeing that signature. I'm going to switch to see if I can. There's a different radar, but you can still see this is coming off of Jackson, Kentucky's radar, but you can kind of see the different colors right there, suggesting that spin. And that's definitely intensified here in the last scan. So certainly that's a concern where you've got that green and the red touching right there, indicating that there is at least a potential for a tornado right within that cell. I'm not seeing, this is kind of a line of storms. So it's not an individual cell that's suggesting a hook signature like we sometimes see. This is more of a line of storms, but it's centered up here, and this is also another tornado warning just outside of our area. That's northern parts of Adams County right there. But there's kind of what we call, I think, an MCV, kind of a mini area of low pressure that is kind of driving this, and so you're tending to get some spin. So this is going to kind of pass off to the north, and this is forming that line, and anywhere along that line you can get these spin-ups right here with a possible tornado. So that's what we're seeing right there in Lewis County, Kentucky. And again, that's until 6:15. So I've got the National Weather Service chat up. And it looks like we just threw out another update here. And severe thunderstorm, yes, capable, and again, it's near Charters right now, and it's heading east at around 50 miles an hour. And we got a ton of lightning all along this line as well. So, even outside of this, where this tornado is located right now, a potential tornado, it's radar indicated tornado. Definitely, this is a line that's got capable of producing some really strong winds. We've got very strong wind signatures west of the Jackson, Kentucky radar, but that's on a path to make its way towards eventually Magoffin and Floyd and Pike counties right there. And then up further to the north, we're seeing just these kind of little notches where the wind spins up. So there's the one there west of Vanceburg, and then there's kind of another one there, and I think that's where that area of low pressure is kind of organizing. And so they're watching, so they issued a tornado warning on that particular cell. But again, our focus here for our viewing area is here in Lewis County. And again, that's right on top of Charters right now, that particular signature. So you want to be inside, and again, we'll go throw up the safety rules again. You want to be inside, you want to be away from windows. Basement's the best place. If you don't have a basement though, interior room, bathroom, hallway, something like that, or a closet, and let this blow through. And we're going to continue to track this here while this continues to show that kind of signature. So that's what we're watching. And again, in West Virginia, yeah, we've got a downpour. That's not severe. That's making its way up into Mason County right now. There's no severe weather in West Virginia right now, or over in far eastern Ohio counties. Right now it's still clear. But this line is moving its way off to the north and to the east. And so the threat is there, at least for the next couple hours, probably through sundown, that this line could produce at least some, brief spin-up tornadoes along it here. And that's what we're seeing potentially taking place in Lewis County, Kentucky, with that particular signature right there with that velocity scan. Looking at hail, not sure if we're getting not much of a hail. That's not much of a hail signature. Again, this is kind of like just an embedded line. So sometimes we get tornadoes produced by what we call supercell thunderstorms. Usually we'll see those in summertime. Individual cells that gain some spin, they can produce really large hail, and they can drop a tornado. In this case, and this is typically what we see in fall, if we get these tornadoes threats in fall, they're usually these linear kind of complexes. This is just kind of a line of storms right now. And so that's prompted that tornado warning here in Lewis County. And again, we're seeing that signature right near Charters. Now again, you just look at the radar, that doesn't, nothing really stands out right there on the radar. You don't see the classic hook signature that you would see with an individual supercell. But what you do see is you see it in the velocity scan right there, where you've got the red and the green. And we can look over at a different radar site. And National Weather Service in Wilmington is kind of pointing out, so the trick, it's a little tricky here, because if you kind of look where and then you've got the Jackson, Kentucky radar down here, and then you've got the Charleston radar here. All three of these radars are pretty far away from Lewis County. So what you could be having here is some spin. The radar beam, as it leaves the site of the radar itself, it goes higher and higher. I know it looks like it's just a flat line there, but imagine it kind of going at an angle higher into the sky. So, when the beam is here, it's at a higher altitude than it is here. And that's, the same goes for all of those. So all three radars are kind of scanning in Lewis County a higher level of the atmosphere than they would say if you were right under the radar. So if Charleston, if we were seeing this kind of signature in St. Albans per se, that would mean that we were seeing rotation closer to the surface. But in this case with Lewis County, you're kind of seeing this, it's kind of elevated. So there's some questions about whether it just could be an elevated signature. But National Weather Service folks, Wilmington, Ohio covers Lewis County. They saw enough evidence and concern that they did issue that tornado warning. And again, that's in effect until 6:15 as of right now for that area. So again, that signature right there, it's approaching, it's basically crossing Route 10. So over Charters, approaching Clarksburg, Kentucky. That's Clarksburg, Kentucky there, right along Route 10. And then approaching Vanceburg. And of course, Vanceburg would be the most populous site in the path of this potential system. And if this were to maintain itself, I would certainly be paying attention around southwestern Scioto County too, McGaw and Garrison. This is something for you folks to monitor. You're not currently in a tornado warning, you're just under a severe thunderstorm warning, but if that signature were to persist, places like McGaw, right along Route 52 there in southwestern Scioto County, Garrison perhaps, Pond Run, something to watch here, see if this maintains itself as it makes its way to the east. But again, that's the signature that we're watching here right now. And we're just following this just to see, we're going to stay on this while this tornado warning is active. And at least for right now, still seeing that signs of rotation right there as it makes its way on off to the east. So this is what we're going to continue to follow. Every scan, so often it changes a little bit. This looks a little less impressive than it did a couple minutes ago, but it can ramp up very quickly. I was just doing my weathercast at 5:40, and it didn't look all that impressive. And then literally 5 minutes later, we got another scan, and boom, there was some pretty tight rotation on that particular cell. And you can kind of see all these little zones here, green and red. There's some Adams County up there, Union County. You've got these little kind of notches here, kind of all along this line, at least up in northern Kentucky, southern Ohio. Now you get down here, you're not seeing that so much. See how it's just green, it's just straight green. So there's less of a rotating aspect here. But there's some actual spin in the atmosphere, it looks like, right up in here. And again, I think that's kind of related to this meso-low pressure system, this kind of mini low, which is, I think, centered right in there. And so this is moving off to the north and to the east. And so sometimes these little features can form along these fronts, and that can just create a little added spin. So I think that's it's kind of what we're seeing here. But again, Vanceburg, you want to be in your safe spot. I'm going to go over that again. Just again, basement is the preferable spot if you're in Vanceburg right now. Interior room, anything away from windows. You don't want to be in anywhere near windows here with the potential for this blowing through. And the lowest level of your home is where you want to be here as this is coming on through right now. So that is what we are monitoring there, again, with that storm. And there it is. That's what we're seeing there on radar right now. And again, it doesn't have any noticeable features on radar aside from just being a pretty strong-looking storm. And we're not getting much of a hail signature either, but we are getting that rotating signature there on that particular cell. So here's an update. Let's see. Has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for central Lewis County until 6:45. So they did extend. Yeah, they're extending that. The fact that they're going severe thunderstorm warning, though, they haven't dropped any official notice. They're very good about kind of giving us heads up in terms of what they're seeing and what their decision-making process is. But I think that may be suggesting that they, well, at least on the southern end of this, they're not too concerned about the tornado. I think, if anything, we might have to watch, this zone right in here because that's where this thing is going. So, southwestern Scioto County, be interesting to see what they do. But again, that's the signature right there. It's gotten a little smaller, a little tighter in scope, but it's where you're seeing that green and that red kind of coinciding. Okay, so they have gone, so tornado, okay, so now we have it, we did just see that get extended there. So southwestern Scioto County and southeastern Adams County. Yeah, they're saying new tornado warning issued for those counties, likely passing near or north of Vanceburg currently. So that is what they are tracking there. So again, there's the signature right there that we're seeing with that. So that's right near Vanceburg. And then that's going to head up into Adams County, Sandy Springs, and then into Scioto County. So you folks in McGaw and Nile and Pond Run, all the way up to just west of West Portsmouth. So Portsmouth, West Portsmouth, you're not currently in that warning. But definitely something that you're going to want to monitor here to see if this continues to maintain itself. So again, those communities here, Nile, McGaw, and those are Pond Run. You want to get into your safe spot. You want to get into the lowest level of your home and, ride this out as this passes on through. So it's moving east at about 30 miles an hour, so I can kind of put a track on that. Kind of give you a time estimate as to when that might be there. So that would, passing near Vanceburg now, Rockville, 6:15. This would get to Nile by about 6:30, and also Pond Run area by about 6:30 on that particular path. And I've kind of drawn this a little wider than where the actual area of rotation is, but that would be the path of that right now. So again, tornado warning for Lewis County. Now, I think that you folks here in this western part of the box, like Nashtown, Poplar Flat, I think that this is past your area now. This is past Charters. This is now up around Vanceburg. So we're probably going to get, we're going to probably see this this part of the warning box get trimmed off. But now it's gotten extended up to the north and to the east here across southwestern Scioto County. And that is in effect until 6:30. Actually, yeah, so severe thunderstorm warning is in effect until 7. The tornado warning is in effect until 6:30 for that area. And again, that tornado warning is just west of Portsmouth right now. But you folks in Portsmouth will want to pay attention. Meanwhile, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings on the southern end of this line. So you can count on, at least some strong storms with some strong wind gusts coming through this whole zone here, West Liberty, Sawyersville, Paintsville, Sandy Hook, places like that, as this line continues to track its way to the east. So there's the whole line. We're focusing in on that one zone because that's got the tornado warning on it. But this is a solid line. Now it is going to run into some more stable air. And of course the sun is setting earlier and earlier, so that starts to take an edge off these storms. That's why I think as this stuff makes its way into West Virginia, it's going to generally weaken these storms. But at least for right now, we are seeing that rotation here in that cell in Lewis County. And that is making its way. That signature, it looks a little less defined right now. Right near, I'd say between Rockville and Vanceburg, it does look a little bit, it's a little bit harder to see, at least on that radar. Let me switch. Yeah, see, I switched down to, there's Charleston's radar. I'm seeing a little less rotation features in this latest scan update. It's not as defined. But again, we've kind of seen these kind of sections, these kind of things spin up and then they kind of weaken and then they spin up once again. So, and then we're seeing that up there, again, outside of our area, but that particular cell, that's got a tornado warning on it as well. That's up around Brush Creek. Again, that's northwest of Scioto County. It looks like that's going to head, more towards Route 23, Chillicothe area. But this is what we have focused in on right now, is that tornado warning for Lewis and southwestern Scioto County, southeastern Adams County as well. And because of that rotation that we're seeing here right there, right on the corner, is basically would be in far southeastern Adams County, right along the Scioto County border. So right near Rockville, right near Route 52. And again, this is all radar indicated. We have no indications that anything is on the ground. It's just that there was enough of a signature here with some of these radars that the National Weather Service saw enough evidence to put out a tornado warning. So the tornado warning, southwestern Scioto County here, just up to just west of West Portsmouth is where that thing goes. But again, if you're in Rosemount, Portsmouth, West Portsmouth, definitely want to be monitoring this. Because even if this weakens, it could cycle up once again here, right within this line. These storms have a tendency to do that when they're kind of associated with what we call a meso-low. They can kind of maintain themselves for longer. And you can kind of see how this cell here in West Virginia is kind of moving north while this stuff's moving eastward. So that tells me that, you're seeing different wind flows and different levels of the atmosphere that are helping to keep this activity going. And that's where that rotation is coming from. And that can get tapped down. So now we just had a severe thunderstorm warning get extended for Greenup and Carter County. So that includes Grayson and Olive Hill. You guys are under a severe thunderstorm warning until 7 o'clock. So that's the potential for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And again, I know I've been focusing in on the tornado warning. That's what we break in for. But, this whole line is capable of producing 50 to 60-mile-an-hour winds. Now, it does look like it's a little less intense than it was. So hopefully that trend will continue. The velocity's not quite as intense. They're approaching the Jackson radar site right now. And it looks a little less impressive up on the northern end, except for that, that rotation. So you still see some weak, green and red coming together. That doesn't look as forceful or as compactful. And then they say that so they're issuing a couple, looks like they're going to extend, they're kind of watching some spots up here. Okay, so they just issued one for Pike, Ohio. That's Pike County, Ohio, and Highland, Ohio, along with Adams County. So that's the cell up here that's got some rotation. I kind of think that's where the actual low pressure system is kind of located. So I think that's what's driving the spin, and then you're getting some additional spin on here on the southern, south of that main low. And there's a spot right there, just outside of Scioto County. That's got a little bit of spin on it too. So if I was in Otway, Lumbertsville, again, you're not under a tornado warning right now, but Raritan, Otway, this is a spot that's frequently had tornado warnings in our viewing area. It probably gets more tornado warnings, I'd say, than anybody else, because you're just a little bit closer to the climatologically favored spots for these kinds of things to happen. So, something to pay attention to with that particular area of rotation right there. And again, that's just right near the Adams County, Scioto County border. And then there's that cell right there. That would be near McGaw right now, that rotation. That's what we're seeing there right now. And it does look like it's kind of broadened out a little bit. So, you go back. So that's when the tornado warning was essentially issued. So you can see the bright white colors. That's some pretty strong wind, and that's some pretty tight rotation right there when it was just southwest of Charters. Now I'll kind of fast forward it, and you can see what I mean. See how you lose the brighter colors. The wind, it doesn't look as intense. It's kind of broad. It's definitely broadening out quite a bit. But at least for right now, National Weather Service is keeping that tornado warning intact. Now they did drop, okay, so they did drop the Lewis County. So Vanceburg is no longer in that tornado warning. Charter's no longer in that tornado warning. The storm has pushed through. But it is still in effect here for southwestern Scioto County until 6:30, so that's at least for another 45 minutes. And probably given just the nature of these, how these things have been evolving and changing, they probably won't drop it early. You know, sometimes you'll see a storm in summertime that ramps up and then it ramps down real quickly, and you can kind of drop a warning early. But with these, I think with the wind energy, I think they're going to continue to monitor this for a while. We want to see a longer-term trend than just a couple of scans to kind of give the all clear. That doesn't look quite as impressive. But again, if you're in Niall, Kenvale, you want to be in your safe spot right now. And this looks like, you know, this rotation signature would cross Route 125 here pretty soon as it makes its way up to the north and to the east. So again, there's the storm line, and it's really just all part of this big line. And then you've got those tornado warnings just outside of our area up into Pike, Ohio. So we'll have to keep an eye on these eventually, perhaps for Vinton and Jackson counties eventually. But you know, that's still a ways away to watch out for that. But again, Lewis County, southwestern Scioto County, that's what we're watching here with that tornado warning that's in effect. And then we've got straight line winds down across southeastern Kentucky. So that's why, you know, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings here across much of northeastern Kentucky right now, extending down to West Liberty and then Jackson, Kentucky as well. So, you know, even if you're outside of this tornado warning, you've still got some busy weather coming through. You know, it's unfortunate that we need the rain. You know, getting some rain is a good thing here, but we don't need this. And unfortunately, that seems to be the trade-off. And there you can kind of see, just kind of widening out, going back a few hours, this is how the whole line has evolved. And really, yeah, just kind of really took off. I mean, it was starting to get going here around 4 o'clock, and then really gained some strength here between 5 and 6 o'clock as it's making its way off to the east. It's moving about, you know, 30 miles an hour roughly. I can kind of just give a rough timeline as to when this would get here. So this, you know, this wouldn't get to Charleston on that time frame until about 9:30. So at that point, the sun has, you know, been down for a couple hours, and you know, this should be weakening. Now Huntington would get there a little earlier, probably closer to 8. And obviously, you know, Portsmouth, this is going to probably move in you know, next 30 minutes or so. So that's where that cell is. And yeah, you know, still looking at the velocity signatures, there's definitely a little bit broader rotation in there. And then this thing, you know, this is not strong, but you know, that's something, you know, that little spot right there, what I'm looking at, right around Walmsley, just west of Otway. You have to keep an eye on that, see if that gets a little stronger. But the tornado warn cell is here, and again, it's a lot broader. It's a little more ill-defined than it was before, but it's near Niall right now, and it's moving east-northeast at about 30 miles an hour. So I think, let's see, we're getting some more info here. Just looking to see what kind of updates we're getting here. Okay, so it's still in effect until 6:30 for southwestern Scioto County. They trimmed off Adams County here, but they're keeping that. They're still keeping that in place for, again, southwestern Scioto County, and that goes, you know, that includes Niall, not as populous here, obviously, as as it is once you get over towards Portsmouth. And as of right now, Stockham, West Portsmouth, Portsmouth, not included in that warning. But this kind of situation, you definitely want to be paying attention to. So that's where that tornado warning is. And again, that's officially in effect for another 10 minutes. So there's that rotation right there. And yeah, I mean, definitely more broad. Yeah, and you can, as I loop this, you can see, you can kind of follow the path of this thing. See how there was that bright white color, the bright green white, you're seeing more intense colors. Now you're not seeing that. So that kind of tells me that this is probably broadening out. And again, no confirmation of any tornado, but there was enough evidence, certainly earlier, that that could have, be capable of producing a tornado. And so that's why the National Weather Service folks issued that tornado warning, which remains in effect for southwestern Scioto County. And again, we're also kind of watching this area up here near Otway. Both of these look a little bit less impressive than what we were seeing earlier. And this zone up in here is also looking like it might be working itself down, kind of spiraling down in intensity a little bit. But we're going to stay on here for as long as this tornado warning is still in effect. And then we've got those up just outside of our area again for Pike, Ohio. So, Sunfish, not quite to Waverly City yet. Pebble is under that Brush Creek, so that area up in there in Pike, Ohio, if you know anybody up there, that is also in effect. That's a tornado warning as well for that kind of lead cell up there. But this is what we are on the air for, is the one in southwestern Scioto County right now. It was in for Lewis County. It's moved out of Lewis County. So again, you guys you're still under severe thunderstorm warning. You're still getting some, heavy rain, some lightning and thunder. And again, this is all moving up toward Olive Hill, Grayson. These are strong storms. They may not be producing, a tornado, but they are producing 50, 60 mile an hour gusts. Also producing a lot of lightning. Look at all the lightning there. So you can kind of loop that. You can see the lightning. Interesting that the southern end of this line looks like it's weakening a bit. A little less lightning there. Most of it's kind of concentrating right in that spot there where we got the tornado warning. So yeah, a ton of lightning. So I mean, at least in Portsmouth, you can expect a lot of lightning. Probably a quick 1 to 2 inches of rainfall with this as it's going to move in, and a 50 mile an hour wind gust. I think you can at least expect that. But we want to see, how, again, we've got that, rotation signature. It's much broader right now. And then you got this other one up around Otway, and then this other one that's up around just east of Brush Creek, Ohio. So really kind of three spots that we kind of are identifying right now. And again, that area right in there, still under that tornado warning. So you want to be in that lowest level of your home, interior room, basement if possible. And we will let you know when it's, when it's clear, when the tornado warning is done. And certainly, this could be a situation where this one goes down and maybe something else spins up. Again, I think the general trend is going to be for this line to weaken as it presses east. So I think, this line will start to weaken as it gets close to and east of the Ohio River for tonight. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to fall apart. It can still be loud with some lightning and thunder this evening and, some downpours. But again, the rain part of this is fine with us. We'll take the rain. But, yeah, we could do without the thunder and lightning and the severe weather threat for sure. But again, I do think that the general trend for this line, and I'll show Futurecast here, the general trend for this line, so there it is, 7, 8 o'clock, getting up along the Ohio River. I'd say between 9 and 10, it's likely moving into the Kanawha Valley. So there'll still be some lightning and thunder with that for sure when it moves through. And then overnight, we're still going to have some showers around and maybe some general thunder in the morning. Okay, so it looks like, so they've gone severe thunderstorm warning for the rest of Scioto County. Looks like that's the option they're taking, so they're not going to extend the tornado warning. So it looks like, at this point at least, that they're kind of thinking that this is going to expire, but at least for right now, it is still in effect. Yeah, it looks like this is still in effect for at least 5 more minutes, so we're still going to stay on for that. And again, you got the tornado warnings up there in Pike, Ohio, and that's kind of moving. That's moving that way. Both of these are kind of moving that way. But the fact that they're, if they thought this was strengthening, they would have gone tornado warning for the Portsmouth area. So instead of that, they've gone severe thunderstorm warning. Now, they are saying in this severe thunderstorm warning, a tornado is possible. So that, indicates that, yeah, there's still some rotation with this, and it could, spin up again. But at least for right now, they're probably seeing the same thing I am, that, this doesn't look quite as tight or as organized of a rotation signature as what we were seeing just about an hour ago. But again, that signature right there it's past Nile now. It's crossed Route 125. There's a new scan there, and yeah, so it's it's kind of ill-defined. I mean, could there be something in here? Possibly, but I think that's definitely not as organized as it was earlier. And then we've got this. This hasn't really gotten any organized.